Okay, welcome back to the Quality Couch Talk or the Couch Quality Talk. I can't quite decide what to call it, so I'm just going to call it that because I can't decide. So, this is where we get to just sit on the couch and just have a chat about things like business, strategy, systems thinking, the world of quality and ISO, and everything that happens in between. And there are a lot of sticking points that probably historic that don't really suit the way the world is going in terms of business and what the future of work looks like. So this is not just about how do we make businesses great now. This is also about how we make businesses great in the future, because legacy is something that's really important. And so what we're going to talk about in this one, and usually I have one of the dogs here, but they're on the floor having a snooze. But what we're going to talk about is documentation. Probably a pretty boring subject, to be fair, but we can create huge amounts of success with documentation. Most companies don't. Most companies, especially the sort of larger ones and the corporates, will have libraries of written documents that sit there. Most of the people probably don't even know that these documents exist, let alone they probably don't pick them up and use them in any way, shape, or form. They probably just gather dust and until the auditor wants to come along, your ISO auditor wants to come along and have a look at them. And they probably haven't been touched since the last time the auditor came and have a look at them a year ago. So what's the point in doing all of this? And if they are so handy and so good, then why aren't we getting the value out of them? And what can we do about it? Is probably the best question. What can we do about it? And so when I'm in certification audit setting, the thing that I will always challenge, if I pick up a document or if I'm reading a document, the thing I'll always challenge and the thing I will always ask is, who reads this? Who's the audience for this particular document? Do they know it exists? And is it valuable? Is it actually useful? Is it something that they use and that will help them do their job better? And quite often it's not. And it's often because it's something that actually doesn't need to be documented, or because the person's been doing that job for a while and they know what to do, so they don't need the document. But it's a great opportunity then to explore, well, okay, is this the best format for this document to be in? Because a document doesn't have to be written words on paper. That's a huge misconception. We see the word document and we think it's got to be written words on paper, and it absolutely does not have to be that. Unless you have a customer saying that we need it on paper or an email or whatever the case may be, we need it as words on paper. Unless they're saying that, then yeah, you'll have to do that for your customer because that's what they need. However, for your operation, when you're developing work instructions, procedures, templates, guidelines, forms, plans, all this clutter that can potentially start to form. When you're going through that process, keep in mind that documenting something can also mean you can video it, or you can record it as an audio, like a podcast, or you can have someone do it in sign language and take pictures or videos of it, and that can be it if you like. The idea of documentation is to have that thing that you are documenting, that we've already ascertained needs to be documented, because not everything needs to be documented, but it's about taking that thing and producing it into a format that someone else can use. That's it. So it's got to be essentially take it out of someone's head and put it into a format that someone else can consume. And you can do that, like I said, with videos, with audios, podcasts, anything. As long as you're achieving the utility at the end user's end, that's all it needs to be. And I often tell the story about a cleaning company I was working with. And this cleaning company, I mean, a great company. They had about 100 employees, so it was quite a decent sized business. And the main demographic of their employees was from other countries. They weren't from Australia. So reading complex documents wasn't something that they did easily. And so this company had this library of written documents, work instructions, procedures, flowcharts, templates, forms, guidelines, bloody plans, just clutter. And they weren't getting used. And processes were getting executed not in accordance with the documents, which kind of defeats the purpose of the document. And so they were trying to performance manage the people around it, when in fact the question I came in and asked was, well, who's the audience, and is this the best way to do it? And so what I did was I actually got conceptually, I moved all the documents and put them in the bin. We got rid of them. And I went to the supervisor and I said, can you just take me to one of the main jobs that the cleaners have to do, they have to perform, and I need you to teach me how to do it. Pretend I'm new to this business and you've got to teach me how to do this. And I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to film you. So talk to me, teach me, and I'll film you teaching me. And that's what the supervisor did. And he did it rather well. But what we did in filming that particular process was we created a document. Now think about it. If you watch something from David Attenborough on YouTube, you call it a documentary. It's quite literally called a documentary. It's a document. And so this becomes the document that then you can share with the team. It gives them a visual that they can follow along with, and then they don't have to necessarily understand what's being said, but they can understand what they're seeing, and then they can replicate that. And that becomes a much more useful form of documenting something. Not only that, it also served as a training mechanism for the company, so that they use these videos as a way to train people on how to do things. And in doing that training and in executing those processes according to those videos, what ended up happening was people would actually go, actually, I was watching the video and I figured out a better way to do it. Great. Well, okay. Tell me about that. Show me the better way of doing it. That's fantastic. Show me. I'll film you. You teach me how to do it and I'll film you. And there's our video update, which is our document update. And so what it really sort of taught us was you don't have to document things by writing them on paper. We didn't have to minute our management meetings by writing them on paper. I worked with a company once who actually did that with audio recording. They podcasted the minutes of the meeting and the actions on, and then they delivered that so that people, if they're listening, if they're on the toilet or if they're driving their car or something, they can listen to the minutes of this meeting and make better use, rather than sit there taking up time reading a document that doesn't deliver context, that doesn't deliver detail. We can use that audio recording as a record of what was discussed, and it delivers that context, it delivers that detail, and it does a much better job of it. It also is less clutter, and you can file them away just the same, and it does exactly what we need it to do. So that was another way of being able to document something. So the moral of this story is, because I'll leave it there, but the moral of this story is documentation can be the biggest pain in the ass, or it can be an absolute world beater. But you get the choice. And if you have an auditor who wants to have a problem with it, find a new auditor. Simple as that. So if you're thinking about documenting or re-documenting your organization, have a think about the audience, who's got to consume this thing, this information, and what's the best way to capture it and deliver it to them so that they can utilize it and use it and make value out of it. Documentation. It's important, but we've got to get it right. Otherwise, it just weighs things down, and we can't have that. All right. See you soon.